Not So Slim Jim here again. A little overcast today, but there's been a lot of problems I've been seeing with people having issues with the 4.0 inline 6 Jeeps. And this goes for the Wrangler, Cherokee, Grand Cherokee, any of them with the inline 6. Now, what it's commonly referred to is Hall syndrome. Pretty much what happens is you have your CPS will work, then it'll stop working, then you replace it, then your throttle positioning sensor will go out. It's going to come up as different fault codes. You have P0121, P0122, P0123, which is your your throttle positioning sensor codes, and you have your crankshaft positioning sensor codes, which is P0320 and P0340. I have this guy, which is an 06 Jeep Wrangler. I mean, honestly, the motor hasn't really changed over the years. The only difference is a few things is you have a little bit different, where the distributor used to be is now actually a camshaft positioning sensor. Most everything else in the motor, other than upgrades for alternators and this and that, hasn't changed in the past decade or so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an explanation on how to troubleshoot your vehicle. Now, this is specifically for people who have crankshaft positioning sensors and throttle positioning sensors that continue to go out over and over again, or you replace them and then it won't work, then it will work, and it's back and forth. Now, I ended up fixing it on this one. Had that issue where the crank positioning sensor went out, put a new one on, ran fine for a couple months, went out again, took it to the dealership. Dealership said it's going to be $350 for a new crankshaft positioning sensor, which is just asinine for a $30 part and 5 minutes worth of labor. If you don't know how to swap one of those out, look at my previous video. I have one specifically on how to do it. It takes about 2 minutes. It's located, actually you can get a better view here, down there on the back side. You have to get it underneath the passenger side, right where the engine meets the transmission. It's about midway up, about 4 to 5 inches back. Like I said, you check out the video, I'll show you how to do it. I'm not rolling around in the rain right now, so yeah, screw you guys. Then you have the throttle positioning sensor, which is this guy right here. There's plenty of videos how to replace them. It's super easy. There's 2 Torx bits on either side. I believe they're T20s. You unscrew it, you take it off, you put the new one on. It's not super difficult. If you absolutely need to figure out how to do it and you can't figure out how to do it, let me know and I'll put a link up for another video that has it. But we're going to go over and how to diagnose this. Now, there's the easy one we look at first is there might be a bad ground. Now each one of these sensors has 3 wires. Now this being an 06, the power line is the pink with the yellow stripe, which is the 5-volt in source, the straight black, which is the ground, and then the brown wire, which is the blue wire, which is going to be your sending unit wire. Now you have your ground, which if you find your dipstick right here on the bolt that connects the dipstick, so you can get in there, on the motor is your grounds for all your sensors, and then it has another one going directly to your battery. I have a third one I hooked up because the factory engine crotch strap, or the ground for it, was looking rough, so I went to O'Reilly, spent $10, got an aftermarket one for a little bit better. Take the bolt out, clean up all the connections, put some dielectric grease, put it back on there. That's going to be your first one. Now, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to get the vehicle, you're going to get it where it's not running. You need to have it where it's throwing a code and it's not starting. You're going to pull the connectors off. Start off with the throttle positioning sensor one, and then you want to take a multimeter and you want to make sure you're getting a steady 5 volts. Now, if you're getting like 4.8, 4.9, 5.1, 5.2, that's fine, but you have to get right around 5 volts. And I said that's going to be the pink wire, which is that guy. Same thing on your crank positioning sensor. Undo it, take your ground for your multimeter, put it somewhere on the frame, put the other one in the pink and yellow. Now, for older vehicles or other than the 06 Wranglers, there's going to be there could be different wiring, so look up the wiring. They have a lot of online diagrams, schematics, whatever. Make sure you're getting 5 volts. Now, this one I found out what happened is I wasn't getting the 5 volts. I was fluctuating between 2 volts and 5 volts on the crankshaft positioning sensor during a no-start situation. I went ahead and I ran the wires back to the computer, which is right here. Now for the 0506, it's the middle FICM, or the middle controller. It's going to be the bottom middle pin. Just find the wire up that goes to the pink and yellow wire. I plugged it in and I was getting a steady 5 volts here, but not down there. My idea, what happens is the wiring harness goes over top of the motor, then goes down here, but it goes down near the exhaust. So I'm assuming over the years the amount of heat created from the exhaust eventually created the amount of resistance in the wire, causing it to have issues. So, to make it easier, I took the pink and yellow wire here, I spliced into it, I soldered on a little bit thicker gauge. This is 14 gauge automotive wire, also used for trailers. Soldered into it properly, make sure I got a good ground, make sure I wrapped it up real good. Ran a new wire and actually went down to the the crankshaft positioning sensor, about 2 inches shy of the sensor. I stripped back a little bit of the wire, soldered it onto there, ran another one because I've been having problems with the throttle positioning sensor as well, and ran it into the wire on this guy. Now I have a steady 5 volts on both of the throttle positioning sensor and crankshaft positioning sensor. Now the reason I did both is because I've had them both go out and they both have issues, and it's actually one power line that splits and goes to both the sensors, so it's best to run it to the both of them. So that way if the wire is bad on one end, you make sure you have the alternate. Now when you're running wire, make sure you keep it away from exhaust, moving parts, anything real hot. I did a quick fix for a friend of mine here, so if you want to, you can pull the wiring harness out and run it inside the wiring harness, or strap it to it exactly, or whatever level of prettiness you want for it. But this ended up fixing this cheap. Now, when you're doing this, if you have the steady 5 volts and it still won't start, from that point pull out your multimeter and then run to figure out which wire is your signal wire. And make sure that your signal wire is actually sending signals. So when you put it on your multimeter, it should pop, pop, pop. You should see it jump around. It shouldn't be zero. If that's the case, then you might have to find out your signal wire and run a new wire going up, if that one went bad, to the FICM. Once again, all that will be available in your diagram you have for your vehicle. If you get any questions, comments, concerns on diagnosing, how to find it, what tools you need, how to replace the sensors, or if you just didn't understand this, just go ahead and get back to me and I'll hit you back as soon as I can.